A secret fortune and a shattered trust. Can our marriage survive this deception? I, a 38-year-old man, am currently navigating the most desolate landscape of my life, utterly adrift after a catastrophic confrontation with my wife. My marriage, my future, and my entire sense of security feel like they've been ripped to shreds in the past few days, and I'm terrified I'm the one holding the knife. My wife, Chloe, 37, and I have been inseparable since college. We met at a small Midwestern university, bonded over late-night study sessions, shared dreams of building a stable, happy life together, and a mutual appreciation for bad horror movies. We always pictured a modest house with a picket fence, a couple of kids, our beloved cat Lily curled up on the couch, and the comfortable hum of a life built on trust and mutual respect. I grew up in a household where every penny was meticulously accounted for. My parents were blue-collar, hard-working, and debt was a four-letter word. You saved for what you wanted, you paid cash, and credit cards were only for dire emergencies. This instilled in me a deep-seated financial conservatism, a belief that transparency with money was the bedrock of any solid relationship. Chloe, on the other hand, came from a seemingly more comfortable background. Her parents were academics, intellectual but not particularly materialistic. While they weren't reckless, money wasn't discussed with the same gravity in her home. She always seemed to have a knack for finding good deals, for making a little go a long way, and I admired her resourcefulness. When we first moved in together after college, there were small differences. I'd meticulously budget for groceries, she'd impulse buy a unique piece of art for the apartment. I'd track our shared expenses down to the cent, she'd sometimes forget to contribute her share for a few weeks, apologizing profusely later. We'd have minor, mostly light-hearted, disagreements about her occasional splurge habits. I'd gently remind her about our shared savings goals, and she'd smile, apologize, and promise to be more mindful. I always attributed it to different upbringings, believing that our shared commitment to our future would naturally align our financial philosophies. We had open conversations about our joint account, our retirement plans, and our goal of saving for a down payment on a house, a dream that felt tangible and within reach. The emotional tone of our relationship was one of deep love, partnership, and a fundamental belief that we were working towards the same vision. There was an unspoken agreement that absolute transparency, especially with money, was non-negotiable for our future together. This foundation of trust, however, was about to be put to the ultimate test, and looking back, those small splurge habits were just the visible tip of a very, very large submerged iceberg. The unspoken differences were brewing beneath the surface, slowly eroding the very trust one believed our relationship was built upon, waiting for the right catalyst to reveal their true, destructive potential. The slow, insidious build-up to this catastrophe began about 10 years ago, subtly at first, then with increasing urgency, like a slow-burning fuse. We faced several significant financial hardships that truly tested our resolve, and I thought, solidified our bond through shared struggle. First, I lost my job unexpectedly during a recession. We tightened our belts, lived on Chloe's meager part-time income, and my parents, seeing our distress, drained a portion of their own limited emergency savings to help us cover rent and groceries for several months. It was a humbling, deeply appreciated sacrifice. Then, a few years later, our beloved cat, Lily, needed emergency surgery that cost thousands, money we simply didn't have readily available. Again, my parents stepped in, loaning us the funds without a second thought, telling us, "Family helps family." During these incredibly tough times, Chloe was my rock emotionally. She was supportive, kind, and always there to listen. But looking back, her behavior around financial solutions was oddly quiet. She never suggested radical options, never mentioned any potential hidden resources, just echoed my conservative approach, diligently contributing her small income, always seeming to struggle just as much as I did. This unwavering struggle, however, felt less like a shared burden and more like a carefully maintained facade. There were subtle betrayals, fleeting moments that I dismissed at the time. Chloe would occasionally disappear for an afternoon, vaguely stating errands, or visiting an old friend. Once, a strange, official-looking letter arrived for her from a prestigious wealth management firm in a city far away. She quickly dismissed it as spam, and threw it out before I could get a good look. I remember a distant relative of hers, an eccentric great-aunt, passing away a few years back. At the funeral, Chloe's mother mentioned something in passing about Great-Aunt Martha's unusual will, and Chloe's inheritance, which Chloe quickly and sharply deflected, pulling her mother aside for a hushed, intense conversation. I filed it away as a misunderstanding, a family quirk. My anxiety, which I had worked so hard to keep at bay, began to resurface. I felt a familiar knot of unease in my stomach, a cold certainty that something was off. It wasn't just about the finances. It was about the growing secrecy, the feeling that a significant part of her past, perhaps even her present, was being hidden from me. I tried to suppress it, telling myself I was being paranoid, unfair, remembering all the love and support she had given me. But the evasiveness, the quick changes of subject, the hidden mail, it became a festering wound beneath the surface of our seemingly happy marriage. The emotional distance between us grew into a chasm, filled with my unspoken suspicions and her impenetrable walls of silence. This escalating tension, fueled by her secretive behavior and my growing unease, built to an unbearable pressure, pushing us closer and closer to the inevitable, devastating collision that would force us to confront the past we thought we'd built together, honestly and transparently. The powder keg finally detonated last Sunday morning. Chloe's grandmother, her mother's side, had recently passed away, and we were helping her parents clear out the old family home. It was a bittersweet task, filled with memories and dusty relics. I was in the attic, helping Chloe sort through boxes of forgotten treasures. Tucked away beneath a stack of old photo albums, I found it, a small, intricately carved wooden lockbox. It wasn't locked, and inside, nestled amongst old letters and dried flowers, was a thick stack of quarterly statements from a highly reputable wealth management firm. The same firm from the spam letter years ago. My hands trembled as I pulled out the top statement. It was addressed to Chloe M. Smith, trustee, and detailed a 7-figure trust fund. Not $10,000. Not $50,000. We're talking $1.2 million. The statements showed it had been active for over 15 years, meticulously managed, growing steadily, accumulating interest, all in her name, a secret fortune from her eccentric great-aunt Martha. My breath hitched. The world spun. The realization hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. Chloe had this money all along. She had it when I lost my job and my parents sacrificed their savings for us. She had it when Lily needed emergency surgery and my parents drained their limited resources for us. She had it every single time we struggled, every time we had to forego a dream, every time my family reached into their own pockets for our supposed shared future. All while she maintained the facade of shared hardship. All while I believed we were a team, transparent and united. The trust, our shared history, our very foundation, it was all a lie. Chloe walked into the attic, dusty and smiling, holding a picture of her grandmother. "Look what I found, Mark! Nana looks so beautiful here." She saw the lockbox in my hand, then the statements, and her smile dissolved instantly. Her eyes darted from my face to the paper, and then her shoulders slumped, defeat written all over her. "Mark, I can explain," she whispered, her voice barely audible, shaking her head. "Explain what, Chloe?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm, yet vibrating with a raw intensity that made her flinch. "Explain why you've been lying to me for over a decade? Why you let my parents sacrifice their security, twice, while you had this? Why you let me stress myself sick about our finances while you were sitting out over $1 million? What is this?" She burst into tears, shaking her head, trying to reach for my hand. I pulled away, my body rigid. "It was a secret, Mark. From Great-Aunt Martha. She was very eccentric, you know that. She made me promise, explicitly, never to tell anyone outside of her family, and especially not to touch it unless it was a dire emergency, or for her specific causes. She said it would cause too much drama, too much jealousy within her family, and that I was to be the quiet steward. And then it just snowballed. I didn't want to make you feel bad. It wasn't our money, not really. It was her money, for her causes, for her family. I was going to use it responsibly, for the greater good. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading, streaked with tears. Not our money! I roared, my voice breaking, the full weight of the betrayal crushing me. My parents sacrificed their security for us, Emily. We were us. Every single dream we had, every struggle we faced, was built on a lie. You stood by, watching us suffer, letting my family help us, knowing you had $1 million tucked away? How could you protect a dead great-aunt's secret more than you protected your husband, your family? I slammed the statements onto the old wooden floor. This isn't just about the money, Chloe. This is about trust. You destroyed us. You destroyed everything. I stormed out of the attic, leaving her sobbing amidst the dusty boxes and shattered fragments of our life together. The confrontation was brutal, raw, and utterly devastating. Chloe's motivations, while rooted in a twisted sense of obligation to a deceased relative and a deep fear of judgment, had led to a monumental deception. My anger was born from a profound sense of repeated betrayal, a shattered vision of our shared future, and the complete destruction of the trust one believed was the bedrock of our marriage. Both of us were acting from a place of deep pain, creating an almost unbridgeable chasm between us. The immediate aftermath of that explosive confrontation was a desolate, chilling silence that has permeated every corner of our home. Chloe remained in the attic, her sobs eventually quieting to a desperate, shuddering silence. I retreated to our bedroom, the weight of her deception and my own furious words pressing down on me. My heart hammered against my ribs, a physical manifestation of the shattered trust and overwhelming fear. The incandescent rage I had felt during the argument slowly drained away, replaced by a profound, agonizing grief. It felt like a death had occurred, not of a person, but of a future, a shared dream built on what I now knew was a foundation of lies. The betrayal, the explicit confirmation that my wife had a secret life of wealth while we struggled, was a physical ache in my chest, a constant, gnawing pain that made it hard to breathe. For the first few days, we existed as strangers in our own home. Chloe avoided my gaze, moving through the house with a defeated slump to her shoulders. Meals were eaten in silence, the clinking of cutlery unnervingly loud against the backdrop of our unspoken anguish. Sleep became an elusive torment. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those bank statements, felt the cold dread of betrayal, and heard Chloe's desperate, convoluted explanation. My mind raced, consumed by the memory of our financial hardships, my parents' sacrifices, and every single moment Chloe had looked me in the eye and let me believe we were struggling together. I felt foolish, utterly naive, and profoundly betrayed, not just by her secrecy, but by her willingness to let my family help us when she had resources far beyond anything my parents possessed. The immediate impact on our daily life was devastating. Our modest savings, our dreams of a slightly bigger house, of future investments, all of it now felt like a cruel mockery. The foundation of our shared future had fractured, threatening to swallow everything we had built. My focus at work, usually sharp and dedicated, was shattered. I'd stare blankly at my computer screen for hours, unable to concentrate, my mind trapped in a relentless loop of anger, sadness, and furious questioning about how to recover the trust, not the money. My appetite vanished, and a constant, dull headache throbbed behind my eyes, a physical manifestation of the emotional turmoil. The conflict also profoundly affected my other relationships. Our daughter, Lily, who is incredibly perceptive, started asking, "Daddy, why are you and Mommy always so quiet?" She became quieter herself, clinging to both of us more, sensing the invisible wall that had risen between her parents. My heart ached seeing her confusion, knowing that her world was being shaken by secrets she couldn't understand. I finally confided in my best friend, Liam. He was horrified, offering unwavering support, but even his validation couldn't fill the void left by the profound loss of trust in my marriage. "I haven't told my parents." The shame, the immense guilt of letting them sacrifice for us when Chloe had hidden millions, is too great to bear. I felt utterly isolated, trapped in a nightmare I never saw coming. The bitterness towards Chloe for her deception was profound, but it was interwoven with a deep, aching love for the woman I thought I knew, and the fear of losing her, even as I felt compelled to protect myself and Lily from further betrayal. The weight of it all, the loneliness, the confusion, and the terrifying uncertainty of what comes next, felt utterly crushing. It's been almost 2 weeks since that devastating night, and while the initial shock has worn off, the aftermath feels like a silent, slow-motion explosion. Chloe has been attempting to reach out, sending remorseful texts, leaving notes, and making tearful pleas. She insists she was terrified of breaking her great-aunt's promise of secrecy, that she never meant to hurt me, and that her great-aunt was clear the money was for her causes, not for personal use, which made it feel separate from our finances. She's offered to be completely transparent now, to finally open up about everything, to prove her commitment. Part of me sees her genuine despair, her desperation to fix this, and it breaks my heart. I love her. I always have. But another part of me, the one that remembers our financial struggles, my parents' sacrifices, and the staggering amount of hidden wealth, is rigid with fear and a profound sense of betrayal. I'm constantly replaying the argument, my accusations, her pleas. Was I too harsh? Did I go too far by implying her promise to a deceased, eccentric relative was less important than her honesty to me? I understand her great-aunt's unusual stipulation and the pressure of keeping such a secret. Perhaps her fear of alienating her great-aunt's side of the family, and her own shame about having such a vast amount of personal wealth, made it impossible for her to be open with me. Is it fair for me to demand absolute transparency about all her assets, especially if some were meant for specific, charitable causes as per her aunt's wishes? Am I being unforgiving, or just protecting myself and our daughter from a cycle of deception that could destroy us all? On the other hand, how do you live with such a profound lie at the heart of your marriage? How do you move forward knowing that while I was struggling, while my parents were sacrificing for us, my wife had a secret $1 million safety net? It wasn't a small oversight. It was a years-long pattern of concealment that directly impacted our shared future, our financial stability, and the very foundation of trust in our marriage. My primary responsibility is to Lily now. I cannot, in good conscience, raise her in an environment where her mother is capable of such massive, prolonged deception. My furious outbursts, though painful, felt like the only way to shock her into truly understanding the gravity of her actions, to force her to choose transparency unequivocally. But now, I'm grappling with the terrifying reality of whether I can ever truly trust her again. So, Reddit, I'm turning to you because I'm lost, heartbroken, and terrified. Was I wrong for hitting my breaking point after discovering my wife's hidden $1 million trust fund, threatening to leave her if she doesn't commit to absolute, sustained transparency? Is it unreasonable for me to feel like our marriage is shattered, or is this a natural consequence of such a massive, prolonged betrayal? Can trust ever truly be rebuilt after a deception of this magnitude, or am I prolonging the inevitable agony? I need honest, unbiased perspectives, because right now, I'm drowning in confusion, anger, and a profound sadness for the family we once were, and the future we may never have.